said, our segment today, whenever this does come out, I know for us, we're about maybe 4 weeks into school, probably about 4 weeks into school, maybe a little bit more. And I wanted to talk to Travis about like transitions, right? Going from summer to school. We both have multiple kids. Like, what does that look like? What are the struggles, and what are kind of the systems or tactics you're using to kind of ease that transition? Because I know I mentioned before to him off air that a lot of times for us, we get sick, like physically sick, colds and stuff happen during these transitions. And it could be part of just the stress and anxiety of refinding that rhythm again, be it drop off lines, pick up lines, or for us, because we have kids a little bit older, homework, like scheduling homework, because it's not just one kid's homework right now, it's three kids' homework. And who does what? How do we divide and conquer the household? Who's cooking dinner? Who's doing homework? Oh my goodness, did we forget to pick up the third kid? So, like, what does this season look like for you guys? What are the kind of like the top one or two struggles? And then insider baseball, right? Like, what are the couple things that you guys do to help during this transition time?
Oh man. So I love this because we're really riffing today. Normally I am the one trying to pick up some subject matter and I'm like, "Hey Rob, surprise." But this
Yeah.
time it's the other way around. And for first thing that comes to my mind is obviously communicating ahead of time. So
Mm.
this applies to a lot of things, right? But we sat down and we just talked about, okay, this is coming up. But I got to give credit once again. I mean, if I'm not giving credit to my wife every time, then I'm lying. So
Same here. Same here.
it's she was like, "Hey, school's coming up."
Yeah, we're about
So,
we're about 2 months
uh,
out, right? We got to talk.
yep. And I was like, yeah. That's coming up. That's coming up. We had this conversation. So again, I just want to paint the picture for you guys properly about what this means because I'm not. I don't want this image of me to be like, wow, this guy's so organized. It's all my wife. So, yeah, she saw me. We were sitting on the couch, or I was sitting on the couch watching a show or something, and she's comes up behind me and she's like, it's just amazing. I don't know how you do it. Like he starts school in 4 days for the first time in his life, and
And you're just
and you,
coasting here, like.
yeah. I'm like, we've had that's a whole nother podcast right there. That's another thing I say wrong. Technically, I say a whole nother. It's not a whole nother. That nother is not a word, but I guess what? I said it and nobody thought about it until I said something.
It's true. It's
But
like the
it's
cuz and because, right? I grew
yeah.
up saying cuz all the time. No, the word's
Yeah.
because. So
Now that's top of my mind now. Okay, so yeah, so it was helpful again. Yeah, talking about like what's the new plan, and this goes
mm,
for any season of life that if you're changing chapters in your life or seasons. Um, just kind of talking through, hey, what's the plan? What do we expect in this first week? What do we
mhm.
expect in the first month? And then regrouping once again, which is equally as important, and then
Yes.
saying what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
So it took a little while figuring out, now we had the amazing chance to have Deb home with all of us through we had baby and
Mhm.
then we had summer, so she's a teacher and so um, we had a lot of time together. So then her going back was the first time I was home as full-time dad
Mhm.
with three kiddos,
Mhm.
plus the first time having a kid in school
Mhm.
and learning how the drive line works.
Oh, drop off and pick up line. I
Apparently
tried
schools
to
these
warn
days
him.
don't let you
I tried
drop
to
your
warn
kid
him.
off or pick them up. You have to drive. You have to stay in your car the whole time.
There's not enough
I
space. There's not enough space.
Nope. We take up an entire road. Everybody talks about that school drive line. It's in the
Yeah.
way of everything. So
I don't know
I
about you guys,
digress.
but one of the things about the school drive lines about around where we're at is a lot of the homes are a lot of schools are built in residential areas, but it's like one way in and out roads, right? So I feel bad for the families that live in those kind of communities where the one road they can get out and in of now has 900 cars lined up ready to drop off kids, and someone's just trying to get out to go to work. Like
Yep.
I feel for them. But yeah, that's no joke. I mean, if you're not prepared for the drop off pickup line, that's where I think a lot of agitation and frustration starts to bubble up.
Yep. So, communication, number one. Number
Mhm.
two, yeah, patience, I guess, to go along with that too. Is
Yeah.
like not only are you figuring out something new, but your kids are learning something new.
Yeah. A
And
lot of
so, and
emotions.
your
A lot
spouse
of
is learning
emotions.
something new, right?
Hmm.
So, and I was trying to think of things that apply across the board, because like
Hmm.
technically, I mean, compared to you, we'll talk about what you are in the zone of in your headspace with older
Yeah.
kids. I'm just tipping my toes into this world that some of the other parents here listening have been in for many, many, many a year. So, yeah, so that's a big part of
Hmm.
getting into it. But then also, man, again, if I don't talk about Rob being like the gracious ear, the angel on my shoulder, then is it really even our podcast? Because Rob, if you guys don't know, likes to remind me that hey, it's okay. That you didn't do that thing, and hey, it's okay because guess what? You got next week, or you
Hmm.
figure it out later. Not pushing it off, but adjusting expectations and giving
Yes.
yourself grace is
And
is a
being
big one. So
and
it
being
was,
realistic of the load. Like it's not that heavy, right? So we don't need to carry it if it's not that heavy. So
yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's been wow, crazy with having three kids. I was surprised because I thought, when this baby came, I thought, okay, 2 to 3 is actually not that big of a deal. You're like, okay, I've done this before. I know
Mhm.
how this works. And you have another kid, and you're like, I'm gonna get some more snuggles in. I was too worried
Exactly.
about the sleep schedule or whatever, and I just want to hang out.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, I got distracted because my baby actually just said her first words
Oh, no way. That's
yesterday.
awesome. Congrats on
And
that.
you want to know what it was?
Um,
It was it was hi dada.
oh, no way. That's awesome. That one's
Woo!
that's for the memory books, right? The fact
Yeah,
that first words, hi dad. That's awesome.
I'm gonna send that to you later. It's too good. I'm
Please,
showing
please
everybody
do.
I know. I was at
Exactly.
Trader Joe's this morning, and I was like, guys, look, hi
I'm in
dada.
line. We're all in line. Might as well see the video, right?
Yep. So
Awesome.
sorry, back to it. That was just a learning curve of going. It's not about having another kid that's hard. It was just like exponentially there's more noise and needs
Hmm. Hmm.
happening. And
Yeah.
so for you, what does that look like for you with all the
So
different like levels of need
yeah, so
in
we've got like
grade school?
we got kindergarten, we got fourth grade, we've got middle school. So like obstacles in the beginning is always managing expectations and energy, right? So expectations, not only ours as parents, but for the kids to let them realize like this is not last year, right? It's going to be slightly harder in the fact that it's different, not like academically harder or something like that. Just the fact that it's different classmates, different time periods. So just to preemptively know that, hey, it's going to be hard. So what can we do to counter that? Maybe spend more downtime. One of the things that we do and we've done for years is when we kind of transition back into school is we have kind of a mandatory transition time after school. It means we're not going straight to tech. We're not going straight to homework, right? Hey, grab a snack, right? Get a smoothie. And I just want you to kind of sit outside, maybe grab a comic book if you want to. And I want you to kind of unload and decompress because kids, like we do as adults, a lot of times when we're in a place where we may not deem safe, and it could be subconscious, we have a tendency to put up walls, right? To be on high alert. What's the saying? Like your head's on a swivel, right? And so I noticed that with my kids in new environments and new classes that, man, they are drained by the time we do pickup. And so with a grain of salt, I know the conversations won't be deep. I know that there might be some shortness to arguments that go on in that car or the rest of the day, and to give them grace and to remind them like, hey guys, there's nothing you can say that is going to make me love you less. I know it's hard. I went through it. And one of the things I've been practicing this year, especially with my older one in middle school, is not being like coach dad, but being Oh, dad was in middle school once, right? So I share my stories, my frustrations, my struggles, and to let them know that, and this is who I am now because of those. And I overcame those, right? That it doesn't mean I'm less than or better than anyone else. It's just like, hey, these were the lessons that I had the opportunity to learn from. And so I think that's really given my older kid reassurance that what she's feeling is true and that it's normal and it's okay. And the fact that my mom and dad went through the same feelings and the same obstacles and they're okay. And so I guess the biggest obstacles for us is managing that expectation for one another and in school, and especially as parents too, knowing that no two kids are the same. Well, no 2 year in school is going to be the same either. And then for us to manage our energy, right, based on those expectations, knowing that, you know what, there's some weekends we're not going to go to the park. We're literally going to vegetate all day in the beginning, first couple weeks. And that's needed. That transition, that growth space is needed. And then for us as partners, we have parents of 3 kids, like really managing our energy and being able to verbalize it in a way. And we all have smartphones nowadays, right? We kind of geek out on tech. So for Maureen and I, we talk about battery power. It's like, hey, where are you right now? Well, I'm 80% charged. Well, I'm kind of at 10%. I got dinner, I got homework, right? You go do a quick garden, and then can you take the toddler to the park, right? So simplifying the second half of the day, which for most of us is the harder part of the day because we're all tired, is
Mm.
managing that energy. Okay, where are you at? We're both above 80% charged. Great. We can stick to the criteria or we're doing homework, normal rhythms. If we're both running low, hey, we're picking up takeout and we're not going to do all of homework that elementary school wants you to do. We're going to do 20 minutes of that and we're going to pull up some Bluey. Like, and that's okay. And teaching our kids that that's okay. So I guess that would be the big two as far as seasonal changes when it comes specifically to school is managing their expectations because they want to perform for us, right? As a kid, you want your parents to be proud of you, but then for us to let them know what that actually means and how the fact of they don't need to do anything for us to really be proud of them, right? So that to manage their expectations of that and then for us as parents to be like, hey, we're about to be in the grind again, right? Kind of like grinding meat and just to know that we're going to be a team at the end of the day, like we are at the beginning. And how do we communicate and manage our energy levels so that we're not short with each other and then having the kids notice that. And then I don't know, I think we can all relate as kids. I grew up in the 80s, is that whenever we saw arguments or discussions that were a little bit louder than normal, I would immediately go do, okay, so what did I do wrong? Like, how did I contribute to this?
Mm.
And so a lot of times
Yeah.
that was a lack of managing energy and expectations, right? Be it between the spouses or in the roles. And so when we're all tired, it's easy to point. We all know where each other's buttons are, right? That's just how it is. And when we're at our lowest energy, it's easy to push those buttons because it's a quick feel good. It's a quick I win, you lose. But when you get the opportunity to be with someone long enough and you have this open conversation, you can prepare ahead of time, then if I know I'm getting to that point and I've built that awareness, I actually will tell the kids, like, hey, dad had a long day today. I had a 6 a.m., 4 a.m. class. And, it's not you guys. I messed up communication with your mom on dinner. So I'm just going to go pick up right now. You guys cool with Chick-fil-A? And so the fact that I can explain that to them with a sound mind and body, I'm hoping will kind of plant a different seed than I got when I saw parental discussions growing up in the household about finances or food on the table or job changes. So when those challenges come up for Mo and I, to be transparent with the kids that it's not them, we're tired. This is just what happens sometimes, but it doesn't change the dynamics of the home. So those are kind of the two. I know the last one was a little bit of a segment, but yeah, that's what our challenges are going into it. But we have tools, right? Like you have tools that can preemptively overcome those things.
That's huge. That's really huge because a lot of us operate in the moment. And if we don't think ahead, then it's easy to get flustered. And then you realize I'm projecting my frustration onto my kids, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not their fault. But now they're thinking it is. I was trying to like read something on my phone the other day, and then I was texting someone, but they don't know, like, that's the tricky thing about having phones these days. I don't want to get too far off topic, but you use your phone for talking
Everything.
with people,
Everything.
emailing,
Yeah.
texting, website, yeah, everything. So they see that, and so they were getting loud, and I got frustrated, and I was like, hold on, let me explain what I'm doing, and I am sorry that I got frustrated because it's not with you,
Yeah.
So easy to fall down that road.
Yeah.
But there was something else that you mentioned that had me thinking. Boy, I lost it.
It's okay. It'll come
It's
back.
gonna.
So how about this? While you're thinking of that a little bit, I'll segue to the second part of the
Yeah.
question, which were
Uh-huh.
like tools, tactics, systems. So now that you know that, oh, okay, life has changed, right? The junior man of the house is in school now. I gotta probably pack some extra snacks. Deb's at work from this hour to this hour. So we know all that. We know the obstacles. What are some like tips and tricks and, like I mentioned, insider baseball, anything that you guys do to kind of grease the groove to make that transition? Like the example I gave, and I kind of alluded a little bit to it, is we have mandatory transition time. As a parent, what that looks like is if I come back from work and I'm a little flustered or something like that, I'll put it in park, take the keys out. I'm a big breath work guy, or I'll just sit there and I'll listen to a song. I won't go into the house yet because I know I'm going to bring all this bad juju, so to speak, right? I don't want that to spill over into my spouse or my kids. And so I'll have a mandatory transition time. Sometimes that looks like going to the gym before coming home, especially if you work at a traditional 9 to 5. I'm working from home now, kind of like Travis is doing. And so for me, at the end of my quote unquote work day, I'll go for a walk, right? I'll do a quick walk, decompress. And so when we do pickup lines, I'm 100% dad. I'm ready for homework. I'm not meeting with any clients. I'm not doing anything else. So having that mandatory transition time for me, and I do the same thing for Mo. It's like when she gets back from patient, I'm like, hey, take your time. Whatever you need to do to be mom and Mo, do that. I got pickups, right? And so that's that energy talk. And then for the girls, when they get back from school, besides the check-ins, and I think parents, if you're kind of plugged in with your kids, right, and you're spending enough time, you start to understand body language and the verbiage and stuff like that. And so you're not poking and prodding to create anything, but you're trying to figure out like, okay, how much transition time does number one really need? Like, oh, wow, today was a tough day. You know what? We're going to come back. I'll check her list of homework and I'll kind of set up the homework thing for her. I'm going to let her kind of veg for a little bit, right? Get some healthy snacks in or get a smoothie or something. And then I'll sit down and be like, hey, you know what? It's 3 o'clock now. We're going to start homework at 4. You have an hour to do anything you want to do. But just know at 3:55, I'll let you know, give you kind of a countdown. 4 o'clock, we're on it. Thanks, Dad. I needed that. Right. And I hear it later on where it's like, yeah, and that gives them space to talk about it. Right. Yeah, I had a tough time here with the girlfriend at school, this, all the stuff that I want to be involved with. But if I don't create enough space for that to naturally come out, it doesn't. And so then they share that stuff with other people, whereas I want them to be sharing that with me. So the mandatory transition time is definitely one of our tools, one of our tactics when it comes to this season of life.
That's great. Honestly, I'm just taking notes right now. I remembered what I was gonna say, and this is perfect
Awesome.
for this
There you
because,
go.
yeah, I'm not gonna pretend that I'm good at that right now.
I'm
I love that idea of transition because that's the real challenge, honestly. Like with school life, and I mean, I talk to so many parents right now that we're trying to stay out of this for as long as possible. But like the activities and the birthdays and the
birthdays,
sports,
sports practice yesterday. Yeah, I'm in it. Yep.
they're you're out like 4 or 5 nights a week. So what are you doing? Or it feels like it's like kind of consistent hustle is like right now, here's what we're trying to figure out. And here's the challenges. Yes, it feels very much like it's just like from one thing to the next. And there isn't a time to breathe, though you can make it, So I think Deb and I have been trying to kind of support each other in like what the immediate need is.
Mm-hmm.
But having some of those like preemptive kind of plans in place could be great because we're talking about it right now, and I mean I feel bad because my wife's just like she gets up, she gets ready, she gets the kids like stuff ready, she takes one kid, I have the other two, and then she goes straight to work and she doesn't have any prep time in this school year right now. So it's just like boom, right into it. She leaves right after that. She gets back home again and boom, she's like straight to the kitchen to make some dinner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm horrible at that. So I'm not very much help in that category. So I'm doing something with the kids, and I like that you mentioned afternoons are the hardest.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real thing. If
Yes, it
anybody
is a
else
real
feels
thing.
like that, you're not alone.
Yes.
The afternoons
Yeah.
are rough.
Yes. Yeah.
So then, from there it's dinner time and then it's bath time and then it's bedtime. And then before you know it, okay, I'm sitting on the couch. It's 8:30 or whatever. And
Yeah.
I'm so tired. I want to go to bed.
Yeah.
So like, whoo, where did that day go? What did I just do?
Yeah.
So with the driving around and getting kids places and you just, you laugh at the time that you had before and you can never
Mm-hmm.
really appreciate it until you don't have it anymore. But you
Mm-hmm.
can also, the real challenge and the goal is to like prioritize how do we get through
Yeah.
those little bits of time and maximize what we can. So yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
think the only thing, what I wanted to mention was the only thing that we are doing that I would say the tool that we have that I try and utilize as much as I can is the communication piece.
mm-hmm.
So
It's huge.
I know how much Deb appreciates certain things for the afternoons and the evenings once she's back. And so some of those things I'm like, hey, here's where status update. We're
Mm-hmm.
here with this, we're here with this, we're not here with this.
First off, I don't have all my stuff together. Like these are good intentions. Let's say that much, right? And so some days they work out 80%. What's the saying from Anchorman? Like 80% of the time they work 100% of the time. Like that's literally parenting. That's parenting, right? But one of the things that I've noticed is before, and I'm just talking about myself, right? Because I think we can relate based on stories a lot. Is when I had one kid, right? I was trying to be the textbook dad. We read everything, talked to specialists, all that kind of stuff. Nap time was pre-recorded, like literally, it was like by the book. Both good and bad came from that. But me as a new dad versus where I'm at now, one of the things that would create a lot of frustration for me in the afternoons was going to the park, going to birthday, when homework ran long. And I realize this now looking back is because of my expectations of what those things were supposed to look like versus the time I allocated for me. And what I mean by that is before I started Dawn Patrol, before I was waking up early, I tried to fit too much in to limited times. And unfortunately, my own mental and physical health was usually sacrificed to do other things, to be a dad, to do all that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, because I was sacrificing those things, I knew that I was more irritable doing the other responsible, like going to the park wasn't about play. It was about, hey, you've got 2 minutes left and we got to get back because I need to do ... Right. Homework was like, hey, we have an hour to do homework because I need to do ... And the frame change or kind of the perspective changes now that I do wake up, and that's a plug for Dawn Patrol, by the way. Now that I do wake up earlier, right, to take care of myself and to get some work done, is when the afternoons come and it's homework time, there's no rush. I don't have anything to be or to get to. It is specifically to be present with my child for homework. Or if we go to the park, it's playtime. I'm going to let my kid dictate what the park should be, not me looking at my clock saying, hey, you got 5 minutes. Like I mentioned that. And so that change, that framework change of like, hey, when we decided to have kids, there was always going to be trade-offs. But I want to make the trade-offs with an honest foot forward, right? And I want to do the best I can. In order to do that, I need to allocate time for me before any of those responsibility checklists start to begin. And for us, it's mainly in the afternoons, right? When they get back from school. And I have less anxiety. I'm way less frustrated, right? I'm not short anymore as often as I used to be. And it's actually a better connection with my kids during those times because I want to be there, right? For the homework, for cooking dinner with 3 kids. I mean, there's a difference when you're frustrated and dinner's late and your kid's like, can I help? And you're like, no, right? Versus like, yeah, let's all cook breakfast for dinner. Who doesn't want chocolate pancakes, right? And so for me, that was one of the biggest things as we changed as far as our schedule. And it's made a huge difference in our relationship, but also just energy throughout the day. I notice a big energy suck is when I'm always trying to think of when can I get back to this? Because I need to finish that. And it's because I didn't plan my day enough that every other thing I do in the day is delaying me from getting back to that. And so I'm not giving it my best foot forward when I do all those things. Does that kind of make sense? So that
Oh
was like a
boy, I
big,
feel that. I
yeah.
feel that for sure.
So I can understand because you're in that season of three littles that are really little. And man, I used to be really short. And that's one of the things I use the word hate lightly, but it's one of the things I did not like about myself was the fact that I couldn't control that, or I thought I couldn't control that. I didn't know why it kept coming up until I realized I'm trying to shove a jump house into a duffel bag when it comes to time. Like I want to do all these things, but it's not able to. There needs to be trade-offs. And if I wasn't willing to wake up earlier or sacrifice certain things, it would be that hamster wheel. Right. And same things comes with relationships and everything like that. If I'm trying to do too much, or if I don't feel fulfilled in what I need to be done for me, then the rest of my time is spent waiting for me to speak again, or waiting for my turn to take care of myself. And so that was the big kind of change. So I guess that's a tip. I guess that's a tactic is, getting up earlier, doing stuff for me has helped make everything else way better.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes it. Would you say this makes sense, or maybe it doesn't? I'm kind of
Lay it
tracking
on me.
on a couple
Lay
different
on me.
thoughts that are stirring through my brain right now, but it takes sacrificing in specific areas so that you are not sacrificing some of those things that completely drain you. You
Yeah.
have to be intentional about what you pick, right?
Yes.
A lot of people I think are out there feeling like, well, I just don't have any more time, like I
Mhm.
am shoving the bounce house in the duffel bag. How do I have half a bounce house? It still needs to be a bounce house.
Yeah.
What do you expect? So they don't realize that, you can, pick maybe a different size bounce house or something else, like to
Mhm.
fit where you're at. Right.
Mhm.
There might be a time when you have a big old duffel bag and a lot of time to put it in there or
Mhm.
whatever, if we're going to run with the analogy.
Yeah.
But there are certain times where that's not necessarily allotted. And so
Yeah.
how do you do that? And what are you going to pick? And I guess some people pick different things.
Mhm.
I have no idea what's coming to mind when I'm saying that necessarily, but um, for me, like it was interesting just like having this conversation a while back is like, um, like the, I don't know, this might be more controversial than I realized. We might just have to cut this out.
I'll put like a warning across like right before this section.
But I how do I say this delicately?
Everything in parenting is controversial. So first off, let's just put that.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Like I've been surprised by like kind of like the American,
Mhm.
uh, hustle kind of mentality, or
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
like the pride that comes with like I don't know, with the hustle, right? So
Mhm.
there's all of this like kind of almost worship of the hustle, or like
Oh yeah.
I am my value is way up here if I worked and sweated and I hustled, when I feel like the bar is like could be a completely different bar. Like, why is hustle the highest? Why is
Mhm.
that the bar that we're working off of rather
That
than
that's
margin,
next week's
margin,
podcast. Like stamp it right there. Like
time?
we're gonna talk about that.
I just, I was having
I
this
love that topic.
conversation via a while ago, and I realized like it just wasn't connecting with the person I was talking to. That
Mhm.
the like we chose that like one of us is going to be home,
Mhm.
and so like for us, it was an easy decision at the time because it was like, hey, my wife is established and she loves her job. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's like, we're going to keep that how
No
it is.
brainer.
And
Yeah, no
I'm going
brainer
to
on that
be,
side.
yeah. So guess what? Like I'm here, I'm in this and I enjoy it. But
Mhm.
where I've looked at that and we've looked at that as our family and been like, wow, we're really proud of this. Like we
Yeah,
love this.
you should be.
Some people look at it through a different lens. And I'm
Mhm.
realizing some people see it as kind of a less than, like, well, you picked that life and sorry you have that way. Like, you could be out there hustling, Travis. Like you could be making more money, so you could do this and this with us, but you're
Mhm.
not. And I was like, I was thinking about, I'm like, but I don't want to do all that extra
I
stuff.
don't
Like
wanna
I
do
don't
that.
I just I want to be present,
Yeah,
so like it's just, I don't know if that makes sense. I'm
it
not trying to,
does,
like,
man.
I'm trying not to, like,
No, there's so much to unpack there. That's why I can't wait to dive deep in this. But I remember
yeah,
reading an article years back, years and years ago, about like in the US, I think what they found was like on average, incrementally over, I don't know if it was 70K a year or 80K a year, incrementally after that, there's no increased return on happiness, right?
yep. I
But
heard the same thing. Yep.
because of culturally, though, we're taught by example that we want to move up the ladder, right? We want to accumulate more things. That 80,000 a year is not going to cut it. And yet, when interviewed, right, across a large sample size, it doesn't make you a happier person. And in most aspects, it does the reverse of that, right? Because of the time you have to allocate to make the more money, you're not spending with your kids, you're not spending with your spouse. And so there's a trickle down effect there as well, right? Not going into divorce rate or relationships, stuff like that. But, and so on the same subject, because I've run into people like that. It's like, oh, that's what you do? I was like, yeah, that's what I do. I love having time to do homework with my kids. I love picking up and dropping off. It's all the things I kind of yearn for as a kid when I grew up. And unfortunately, my parents couldn't provide that because at that time, it was the workforce. It was, putting bread on the table. So I think as we grow individually, like our definitions of wealth or happiness will change, and it may not be in alignment with the kids we went to high school with or college with or even go to church with, right? And so what you realize is the sooner you can kind of filter out the version of you that you're happy with, it makes everything else much easier, right? Because you're no longer playing that game of keeping up with the Joneses. So I think that drove me for years, even through my entrepreneurial sprint early on of starting business. Why? Because my dad started a business. Why? All the people I went to college with started a business. I need to start a business, right? And now I'm like, why did I start a business? Like, I could have just worked for someone, been really good at it, and spent more time taking care of myself and my family. Whereas, the whole pitch of like, oh, as an entrepreneur, you get to make your own time. You work more than 80 hours a week as an entrepreneur. Like, that's not healthy over the long term. So I love what you said. I don't think it's controversial. I think what works for your family, and I talk about this with Mo all the time, is what we see with other families, we don't judge because it works for them, right? They're happy, right? We can see that. Then great, keep doing what you're doing. What we do makes us happy and we're content and we're able to check all the boxes that we want to check because our list is different than your list. So when we play that comparison game, then we have to also accept all the trade-offs they're making as well, right? So when someone's like, oh, that's what you do, you could be making more. Yeah, but what sacrifices are you making to achieve all that? I don't want those sacrifices, right? I don't want to be trading my kids' golden years so that I could pay for their car when they start college, right? Like that doesn't seem like a trade-off for me.
Yeah, yeah. Agreed. And
But yeah, I do want
sorry
to go.
for you financial people out there who are,
Hey,
like,
I grew up as one of
maybe
those.
that's,
If that's one of your top pillars, go for it. It was from me for more than a decade, right? That
yeah.
number in the bank was one, and then it wasn't, and that's okay, right? Then it changes, and then you change your
Hmm.
life to kind of fit that. But yeah, I want to dive deeper into there. I think
Yeah.
we're about 46 minutes long. The kids are already coming home on my
Yeah.
side, so I just wanted to kind of
It's
recap
time.
It's time. But yeah, this transition, good in school. Travis has got his first in school. Congrats for that. It's only going to get better with the other kids going in. But I think for all the parents in different seasons, right? Every kid going to school or back to school is going to be a new season. And so I think if there's any takeaways from Travis and I is, clear communication ahead of time, during, after time, reviewing time, like always keep that communication. And then to find what works for your family, for me, is having that kind of mandatory transition time for everyone, right? And it also lets me help other kids homework at different times because they need different transition times, which helps out. And then energy, right? Really managing your energy because there's only so many hours in a day. We don't want to be drinking 5 cups of coffee. I just got blood panel work done. You know what I mean? Like I suffered from very low or very high cortisol for years and stuff like that, stressing and being anxious, that now so much of that is starting to kind of bleed into my ability to teach my kids and stuff. So I use those as lessons, but manage your energy now so that you can be a better parent for sure. But any other takeaways, Travis, that you want to share from today's talk?
I think you hit it. I think you hit the nail on the head. And we nipped it in the bud. That conversation right there.
I love it. Head on a swivel.
Done.
See, I said that one correct. When we came back, that did not make sense at first.
Yeah.
Didn't know what the head on the swivel was. But as always, we always finish, right? We're not gurus, right? But we're not
professionals.
We're just two
dads in real life.